Is inflammation crucial in autism? Yes. Hi, my name is David. Inflammation is a key factor for developing severe symptoms of autism. And it happened to my son as a parent of a child with severe autism. I was devastated because of all the challenging behaviors and symptoms, lack of attention, focus, not able to, to look at your eyes, not able to like following instructions. It was a pretty challenging moment, for my family. And I decided, to go back to school and study functional medicine and nutrition and how we can use, food and nutrition to benefit brain function. And in that area, I learned about how in autism there is high levels of inflammation. There is high levels of inflammation in children with autism. Literally, like the brain is on fire. And the higher the levels of inflammation, the more severe the symptoms of autism. Let me say it again. The higher the level of inflammation, the more severe the symptoms of autism. And one of the key aspects, that gave me like a clue of how I can, help my son is inflammation can be increased or decreased with food. Inflammation can be increased or decreased with food, and it is extremely important, to be aware of this relationship. And let me show you this slide over here that is very important. In this study, they evaluate several children with autism, and they compare it with typical children. Typical children means children without autism. So typical children means kids without autism. And when they measure an inflammatory marker called C-reactive protein, and C-reactive protein normal level are from 0 to 3. And the children without autism, the average level was 1.3. So they, that's a normal value. But in that trial, when they measure children with autism, the average of all children with autism, it was 540. 540, and normal levels are 0 to 3. So can you imagine? These are extreme high levels of inflammation. And when you compare it with children without autism, it's quite different from 1.3 on typical children to 540. And not only that, look at the difference between mild autism and severe autism. When you compare the children with mild autism to severe autism, look at this. The children with severe autism, it was 985. That's unbelievable, pretty high. And when you see children with mild autism, it's 147. So you can see that children are mild autistic when you compare it to children with severe autism, is that there is high levels of inflammation. So in other words, the higher the inflammation, the more severe the symptoms of autism. The higher the inflammation, the more severe the symptoms of autism. When I saw that, I said, wow. So definitely now it makes sense that is a good strategy to increase the intake of food that are considered anti-inflammatory or have anti-inflammatory properties. And also it makes sense to decrease the food that is inflammatory. So in that way, food that is inflammatory, I want to decrease that kind of food that is inflammatory and to increase the intake of food that is anti-inflammatory. and that was key, for my son's, improvement from autism. And so let me go to the next slide. And what do I learn from this research is just that children with autism are pretty inflamed, high levels of inflammation in them. And when you compare it, the average was 540, and when you compare it with typical children, 1.3. And also, there is a huge difference between mild autism and severe autism. So when you see a child with mild autism and a child with severe autism, you may start to think about the level of inflammation. And as I want for you to memorize, if you're a parent or a relative, with a child with autism, biology drives behavior. This is key. Biology drives behavior. So biology, means like higher levels of inflammation can promote, difficult behavior. So if you got higher levels of inflammation, that means that will drive a very severe behavior. And not now it makes sense that sometimes, if your child try an unhealthy food and he may start having difficult symptoms, loss of hyperactivity, and he may turn also aggressive. That maybe is a reaction, from that food that will increase the inflammation. And if you get higher levels of inflammation, then you will see, higher levels of symptoms. So as I'm discussing here, food is information. Food is information. And food can promote inflammation or can decrease inflammation. So food activates genes, inflammatory genes, or deactivate inflammatory genes. That means, that they can either promote inflammation or increase inflammation or decrease inflammation. And as you are aware, children with autism, they got high levels of inflammation. So we, like the approach for them is how we can use foods that can decrease inflammation. For example, foods like broccoli, they are, pretty anti-inflammatory. Also, foods rich in vitamin D. Vitamin D is a very good anti-inflammatory. Foods that are rich in omega-3 fatty acid. They are all anti-inflammatory. So as you can think about that, there are food that can decrease inflammation, and it's a very good strategy that you can use, to help, families, affected by autism. And as you can, let me show you the next slide. And my son, that was pretty severe. He, he went to play soccer. He went to play basketball, and he's doing excellent in school. Last year, he was in the honor roll. So it was unbelievable. How a child can go from a severe stage of autism to a mild, to a mild level of autism, and food made it the huge difference. So I just want to share this message of hope that there, sadly, we don't have medications approved for inflammation in autism, but using like food and nutrition with a functional medicine approach can be a great way to relieve severe symptoms of autism. So I just want to make you aware that there is hope. There is hope, for them to get better. So if you're a parent, I do understand. I was there and I know the challenges. I know that that they it's pretty difficult to give healthy foods for like children with autism. They're more sensitive, but but also it's like human beings, we're also, it's for anybody, it's challenging to eat healthy, but you just have to be persistent and try many different ways to little by little, increase, a healthy diet, with food that is anti-inflammatory, and it can be done. I learned from my son. My son was like my best teacher. When I saw my son, that he was improving, I changed myself, and I was not eating too healthy, before my son, but my son showed me, how important is nutrition. And I started eating better, and I'm not going back because I see every day how impactful is nutrition for health, especially for brain function. So I just want to share this message of hope, for parents or anybody affected with autism. There is hope for you. There is hope for you. So, just you have to be persistent. I love like the quote, from Les Brown, that life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will take over. Let me say it again. Life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you don't want, I'm sorry, once you stop fighting for what you don't want will take over. So it is important to keep fighting for the health of your family and for the health of your son. And before I go, I left, under the description, you can download a free report of how you can use nutrition to benefit children on the spectrum. And also, if you can subscribe to my channel, I appreciate it. So thank you very much for your time and have a great day. Bye bye.